Sony event where they've just announced two new lenses, the 12 to 24 f4, which I have sitting right here on the A9, and the 16 to 35 f2.8 GMaster. Let's start talking about the 12 to 24 first. So they just announced them today. We had all of yesterday, we being the press, to shoot with these two lenses on an A9, on an A7R Mark II. And the first thing I want to talk about is kind of form and function of the 12 to 24. I'm really impressed with how small and lightweight it is. When you compare it to Canon, which costs massive amounts more, over $1,000 more, and Sigma, you're talking about a much bigger, much heavier lens. So they really worked hard to make this a nice compact lens to kind of fit their mirrorless bodies. We have this discussion often. We talk about, a lot of people say, I want to go mirrorless for that smaller, lighter, and then the other side says, yeah, but as soon as you put those full frame lenses on there, you're losing a lot of that. Well, Sony is working on that, it seems, because they made this a priority. Image quality wise, this seems to be an excellent lens, but certainly isn't quite as sharp as the GMaster. So this does not have that GMaster designation, but there's nothing else this wide, this price, and this lightweight in this category. And I think it's certainly an excellent lens. It just doesn't quite stand up to something like the 16 to 35, which I'll talk more about in a minute. So really nice feel in hand, build quality excellent. We do have an integrated lens hood that's stuck on there, and we have a bulbous front element. So you're not going to be throwing on normal filters. You're going to have to get into a filter system, and that's going to have a special adapter for this lens. It's coming out in July, I believe it is. End of July, $17.99 price. And I'll throw up some sample images, plus you can find more of my thoughts plus sample images at the link right down below this video. Again, really love the feel of this lens. Now personally, I've talked in the past about wide angle lenses. I struggle with them. I think a lot of times beginners think they need to buy a big wide angle lens to go off and go shoot landscapes, where if you don't have a specific idea in mind or interesting foreground elements, wide angles just make everything look kind of empty. And I really like telephotos for landscape often, but there are certain uses for wide angles and video as well. This would be great. Now, my roommate on this trip actually happens to be Max Yuriev. He helped me set up this video. Thank you, Max. You should check out his channel, because if you're interested on the video side of things, he has fantastic amount of information. One of the things we were talking about, and that Sony stressed in the announcement of this, is, you know, all of these lenses are focused by wire, and for manual focus, that can be kind of frustrating at times, but they seem to have really worked on that with the release of these two lenses as well, and the manual focus seems much smoother, much more kind of predictable as you're working with it. So that's nice as well. So the other lens they announced, the 16 to 35 f2.8 GMaster. This rounds out what they call the Trinity. So you now got the 16 to 35 f2.8, the 24 to 70 f2.8, and the 70 to 200 f2.8, all in that GMaster series. GMaster basically is the equivalent of like L lenses for Canon. These are fantastic lenses. They are so sharp, very nicely made, weather resistant, but you are paying for it. Now, the 16 to 35, that gets me a little bit more excited than the 12 to 24, because I do like that f2.8 aperture for shooting night skies. I also like that range. To me, is where I can really start to work with landscapes. Wider than that, as I said, I kind of struggle a little bit, but 12 to 24 offers that. With that 16 to 35, I found it exceptionally sharp from corner to corner across the board, and really love the creamy bokeh it produces. It's an 11-bladed aperture design, whereas the other 16 to 35s from other common manufacturers, the commoners, is just a 9-bladed aperture design. So that's pretty sweet. And I saw the results of that in some of my sample shots yesterday. Really nice lens. And it is, fairly travel friendly. It compares very nicely to something like the Canon 16 to 35. Now that's going to come in at $21.99 and is not shipping until the end of August. So this is a one of those announcements that we just have to wait for quite a while before they're going to ship to the public. There's going to be review units around and stuff, and we'll all be having more hands-on time with them in the near future. But really nice lens, and it's just really nice to see Sony focusing on the lenses, kind of closing the gap with the big Canon and Nikon manufacturers that have tons of lens selection, and a lot less to complain about. Some people are going to complain about price, but these, especially the GMaster series, are meant to be used on high megapixel cameras, the ones they have now, the ones that are coming, I'm sure, and their resolution is just absolutely fantastic. So information, price, specs, that's all going to be linked down below. If you've got any questions, I'd love to hear them. What is the next lens you want from Sony? Because they really have kind of filled out the general area. Personally, I'd like to see some more budget-friendly lenses like their 85, like their 50, and I'd also like to see some longer telephoto lenses. So they threw up a slide that says you now have 12 to 800 millimeters with native Sony lenses. Well, that 800 millimeters is when you use their 100 to 400 with a 2x converter. So I haven't personally tested that yet. I'd love to. I suspect it's very good, but certainly not quite as good as using one of those 500 or 600 primes that you would get from Canon or Nikon. So let me know what you'd like to see, lens you would like to see next, or body. I know a lot of people were hoping this announcement would be an A9S or R version. I'm sure that's coming. I don't think we'll see that anytime soon, though. Or, of course, an A7R Mark III with some of that A9. There's a lot of discussion about that. We'll see. If you found this video helpful, give it a quick thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye.